Listen now, we the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard podcast, going into week 5 this week, and we have some interesting matchups. First of all, the first thing I have to ask, I always forget. So, how are you doing, and how are our standings before we talk about anything else?
Oh man, I'm doing good. Better than Steelers fans at this point. I guess they have reason to hope because they will be seeing Kenny Pickett, it seems, from this point on. But have you looked at their schedule? Like, Jesus, they probably don't win one of the next 5 or 6 games, so it's gonna be tough. But as far as our pick'em contest, we disagreed on 3 last week, and I actually took 2 of them, and you got 1 of them. So I regained a point on you. That gave me 10 to your 9. So we both did much, much better than the past 2 weeks. We disagreed on the Browns and Falcons, and obviously I won that one. Cardinals and Panthers, you won that one. You picked the Cardinals. I thought they had no chance. And the Broncos and Raiders. So the Broncos, the Raiders are no longer undefeated or undefeated. Yeah.
Undefeated. Yeah, they are defeated now.
Yes, they are.
Some big surprise.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that brings the total 30 for me and 33 for you.
All right. So you made up 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get that back this week as we hop into the games. But first, NFL MVP tracker power rankings. First and foremost, there's a poll once again every week where you can vote on your current MVP favorite. If the season ends today, who wins the MVP? Polls out, so you can go vote on the channel community page. And I'm going to present my top 5 as I do every week. A lot of movement this week, a lot of shifting going on. The names are the same, but the positions are different. So for the first time this year, I have Josh Allen at number 1. I think he's been the most consistent one so far. He hasn't had a bad game. We've seen Mahomes have a bad game. Legitimately bad game against Indianapolis. Josh Allen so far has not had a bad game. He outdueled Lamar Jackson 1-1. Got outdueled by Tua Tagovailoa 1-1, but bounced back strong. And I think at this point he's my number 1. Just looking at all the stats, he's consistently up there in the top 3. Number 2, Patrick Mahomes still leads the league in passer rating. He had that 1 down game, but he's up considerably. I had him, I think, at 4 or 5 last week. Now he's back at the 2nd spot after his great performance, beating a defense which, to that point in Tampa Bay, had given up like 10 points per game on average, which is a ridiculous number. And he put 40 on them, so that's extra commendable. Justin Herbert coming back in at number 3 had a strong game. Chargers won the must-win game. It looked dangerous for a bit there when Houston came back in the second half, but they held them off thanks to mostly Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler with a strong offensive performance. So he's still at number 3 in the running. Number 4, Tua Tagovailoa dropping down 3 spots. Of course, only played like the half a game against Cincinnati, which was nothing super impressive. More than likely will miss week 5, and after that we'll see how it's gonna go. Even though there's a 10-day break, I assume they're gonna hold him out, even if he does get cleared for next week. I assume they're gonna hold him out of week 5. Still number 4 on my list, but it's gonna be tough if you miss more than 1 game. Generally, it's really, really hard to have a legitimate point in the MVP race. Number 5, Lamar Jackson, also dropping down a spot because, well, he lost the game. Statistically speaking, still very much up there, still very much possible. Have to win a little more though. And the quarterbacks that to me are sort of in the hunt, knocking on the door of the top 5, still Jalen Hurts, who had kind of a down game, probably the worst game he's had so far, through terrible pick 6 against Jacksonville, but brought them back to win it in the end. Jared Goff and Geno Smith with two very big asterisks next to them because the teams aren't winning, and we know that the team has to win for the quarterback to be considered an MVP candidate. You can't have a losing season and be an MVP. It's not going to happen as a quarterback. You have to win, preferably 10 games or more. They're not on track to be doing that right now, but Jared Goff, Geno Smith statistically are both top 5 quarterbacks so far, and then Aaron Rodgers. unsurprisingly. Had one very bad game week 1, so he's still kind of clawing his way back up there. But those are the ones that are sort of in contentions for me. So do you have any takes on this one before we move on?
Yeah, actually, if you look at the weather conditions for the Eagles game, I think that Hurts actually kind of made it better on himself. I know he had bad stats. If you just read the box scores, it was bad. But you also have to look at the conditions of that game. And in the end, he was capable of putting the team on his back and clawing their way back in to win that game and remain undefeated against the surging Jaguars, who also have a really great defense. I think both of these teams in the end, the Jaguars and the Eagles, are going to have great seasons when it's all finished and done. Maybe a future Super Bowl matchup in the years to come. I think Trevor Lawrence could actually... It was a down game for him, for sure. He could keep his name in the running if he proceeds to make advances like he had been doing. But right now, I think it's a bottleneck between Hurts, Allen, and Mahomes because of how that played out. And of course, Rodgers is making his way back up there. Geno and Goff have no chance at all of winning this in the end, but they are putting up phenomenal offensive stats. And if you play fantasy football, those were the two best quarterbacks on the week. Surprisingly, no one would have ever guessed that. But unfortunately, they both have extremely bad defenses, so they're not going to win a lot of games, which will keep them out of there. But yeah, so pretty much I agree with you. I'll say that.
Yep. Well, see, for Jalen Hurts, it's still the game. Just you said the box score is not looking that great with the conditions, but to me, this kind of worked. They got down 14-0 really, really quickly through a terrible pick six, worst pick that he's thrown all season, and then he was the quarterback when they got back and ended up winning it, but they really won it on the ground. They really won it with the running game. And if you compare that to someone like Josh Allen, or even Aaron Rodgers, when a team is down, or when they're like the Bills were down against the Ravens, to look bad, and they got back because of Josh Allen, specifically Josh Allen, both him on the ground and him through the air. Less so with Jalen Hurts. That's why, to me, he kind of gets the nod there. But it's still like really early in the season, so a lot can still happen. This is my preliminary list for now, but so far every single week there's been movement, so I'm expecting that to continue going into the next weeks. But we have week 5 coming up, and we're going to start off with, another London game, another overseas game, and we have the Colts at the Broncos.
This is actually tough. The Colts are coming off of some... one phenomenal week and 3 really bad weeks. But still, the Broncos are nothing to be afraid of in the end. That defense is what it is, but then again, it's not enough to get them wins against the Raiders. So what is that saying for them? It's really tough pick 'em. I think this is going to be an extremely low-scoring game, especially being in London. People are probably going to be disappointed watching this that early in the morning. Oh, extremely early for you. You know what? Since there is no home team advantage here, I think I will just go with the Colts. It's a 50-50 pick'em.
So actually, correction, I was completely mistaken. This is not the London game. This is the Thursday night game. That's not in London. We have the first Sunday game is in London. So this is in Denver. Extremely early in the morning for me. I'm not gonna watch this. I can tell you that. No, I'm not watching this one live because there's a potential for about 10 points to be scored in this one combined between both of those teams, and I'm not interested in that one. I had to sit through the Broncos-Niners game, which was also terrible and happened late at night. So I'm not watching Denver again this year if it's in a bad time slot. As for the result, this is a difficult one because both these teams are sort of nothing consistent so far. They look good, they look terrible, and they play good defense, but they can't score. I'm going to take the Colts in this one because I think that while Denver tends to have a very strong defense, I think maybe one of their sort of weaknesses is a consistent run game, which is something that the Colts potentially have a good matchup on them. And I also think that Matt Ryan is seems to be catching his rhythm a little bit. We know that he's kind of a rhythm dependent passer.
Oh, yeah.
And when he was in a system tailored sort of to his needs, with Kyle Shanahan in Atlanta, he had MVP performances. It takes some time to do that, but we know Frank Reich is known to get good things out of his quarterbacks. So I'm assuming that the arc is tending upwards with Matt Ryan, so I'm a bit more confident about the Colts going forward. I also think they just have generally a little bit more talent on offense surrounding the quarterback, though, of course, the Broncos, you would think so too, but Javonte Williams being out for the rest of the season, Melvin Gordon can't hold on to football. There's some issues there. They have to rely on the defense and Russell Wilson stepping up and fulfilling what he's getting paid to do, which he hasn't done yet, so therefore I'm going to say Indianapolis by a small margin in a probably not a very good game. The Giants at the Packers. And this is the London game.
This is the London game. Okay. I'm still not going to change my pick, though. I don't even think... Thursday nights tend to be an island, and that's not going to be a home field. I mean, it is a home field advantage. It's going to be loud there, but Russell is not particularly great on island games. But anyway, Giants and Packers. Now, the Giants are playing really well, right? We do have a problem with Daniel being injured. He was able to come back in that game because Tyrod got injured almost immediately once entering the game. But the Giants are doing well considering they have a horrible offensive line. It's really a great asset to the team that they are able to win with a bad offensive line like that. But then again, this is the Packers. And it doesn't matter where they're at. I'm sure the Packers are going to have the home field advantage. I bet if they were playing in New Jersey, the Packers would have the home field advantage because the Packers just have more fans around the world than the Giants do. That's a fact of life there. And it's Aaron Rodgers, and you can't bet against Aaron Rodgers. As much as I want the Giants to win and I want Daniel Jones to pull this out, him being injured, it really goes against him. I can't count on that. He has no receiving options. It's crazy. As Saquon Barkley is holding this team together. I'll take the Packers to win this one at home or in London.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree with that. Not exactly at home, man. They're gonna get a home game stolen from them. I'm gonna agree with you. I'll take the Packers absolutely. Questions around Daniel Jones, as you mentioned. Now we know Saquon Barkley is capable of going off, and he can really take a game in his control, but we know Aaron Rodgers tends to do it on a weekly basis, and a quarterback is more impactful than a running back. One thing I want to point out, though, is the Packers are favored by 8, and the over-under of this game is 41. That is a very low over-under for my taste, and that seems like especially with the score being so big, they're basically expecting it to be like a 17-7, like low scoring, almost nearly shutout. So I'm probably gonna take the over on this score line because both of these teams tend to have their strength on offense as it stands. So I'm expecting it to be kind of high scoring, and the Packers should certainly win it. Giants are 3-1, so credit where it's due. They are leading that division, but should not be the same level of strength. So I'm taking the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. Steelers at the Bills.
Well, like I said, there's not much to discuss about this. The Bills are great. They are led by an MVP candidate, which this might actually be his year. This might be the Bills' year to finally get a Super Bowl win. As good as they are, there's not many teams that can stop them. We saw the Dolphins were capable of doing that, but there's not much teams outside of the Dolphins. Maybe the Chiefs or... I guess that's it in the AFC. The Chiefs, maybe the Ravens if they meet again in the playoffs. But we see that they pulled it out over the Ravens. So the Bills are the best offensive team and one of the best defenses in the AFC. Steelers are bad. Kenny Pickett's giving them hope, like I said earlier, but they're not good enough overall. They have a lot of receiving weapons there, and I think there's going to be a special connections between Pickett and Pickens down the road. But the team is just not that great. The offensive line is bad. The defense is not holding together. The Bills at home, easy win.
See, I can't express how badly I want to pick the Steelers in this one because Because of Kenny Pickett, obviously, who I'm really, really glad we're finally seeing start, who's certainly a better starting quarterback than Mitch Trubisky at this point and Mason Rudolph. So I'm glad they brought him in. They brought him in. He looked pretty good against the Jets. Got outplayed. Well, didn't really get outplayed directly, but Zach Wilson played a great game and the Jets ended up winning it. Pickett on paper threw interceptions, which isn't good, but those were not his fault. 2 of them were tip passes that were the receiver should have caught. One of them was a Hail Mary at the end. So nothing really to criticize him about. He also rushed for touchdowns himself. So and you could feel the energy. This team is coming in on a high, and you can call me crazy here. The Bills are 14-point favorites. They're favored by 2 touchdowns. I'm picking the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a complete gut call. This is completely instinctual. It makes 0 sense. I'll acknowledge that before it even happens. This is a completely brainless pick. I'm taking Pittsburgh. I'm gifting you a point. I realize it, but I don't know. Gut feeling. And if it's right, the 1 in 10 times when it's right, I don't know. I'll be sitting here gloating next week. I'm taking the Steelers. Chargers at the Browns.
That is a bold pick, man. Who knows? Maybe he lights a fire under him. Speaking of which, the Chargers kind of got their groove back this past week against the Texans, but it was the Texans, so who knows? You know, they had looked bad through the couple of weeks before last week, and now they get the Browns, which actually could be a blessing in disguise to keep this offense rolling. The Browns have seemed dangerous at some times, but then there's like last week where they just fall apart in the end and let the Falcons win that game. I want to talk about the Falcons later because stat-wise, they shouldn't have won that game. If you look at the box scores, they should never have won that game. But we'll talk about that when we get to the Falcons. Right here, the Chargers should keep rolling. They are on the road, being in Cleveland. I just don't think Brissett can be trusted to win the game when they are down and out. Even when they're ahead, obviously, as we've seen. But as long as Herbert's playing, we should be good to go here. Chargers on the road.
See, the Chargers are an enigmatic team because you look at the roster, you look at the ability they have, the personnel they have. This should be a top 5 team. This should be a Super Bowl contender. You have obviously a top 5 quarterback, MVP candidate. You have an outstanding running back, not just as a runner but also as a receiver. You have tall receivers, dominant receivers on the perimeter. You have a strong offensive line. You have one of the best interior offensive lines in the entire league. And then you have a ferocious pass rush. You have Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack coming over the edge. You have Derwin James clearing up behind. This team should be so much better than what they show on the field. And I'm not quite sure why that is. Now, for the Browns, their strength is easy to identify, right? They run the ball. They have 2 elite running backs, 2 true elite running backs. And they're going to use them. We know that they're going to use them. I'll take the Chargers, but much more reluctantly than I should. And this is a 3-point spread. Chargers are 3-point favorites, which is also smaller than it should be. But based on what we've seen in practice, this is a justified spread. This is a close game, even though on paper those teams are not close at all. But I'm going to trust the Chargers. I'm going to trust specifically Justin Herbert to get it done over a much weaker quarterback. But we know the Chargers like to play down to their competition. So I'm not super confident in the pick, but I think I'm going to have to make it. Texans at the Jaguars.
This is a get-right game here. The Texans are looking bad, and I actually was looking at some mock drafts for the 2023 season, and a lot of people are already picking the Texans to replace why did I forget Davis Mills? Yes. Oh no, I forgot his name. Hopefully he can get it together and we won't be forgetting his name next season. But the Jaguars, on the other hand, they had that tough loss against the Eagles, but they are still a great team, I believe, and they have the right coach. Now, I do think about this. Carson Wentz had a tough time with Doug Peterson. He had that one phenomenal season, and then after his injury, he never quite got it back together. They talk about Doug Peterson as being this quarterback whisperer. Is he actually so hard on the quarterback that it like either makes them or break them? I mean, could that be? If that's the case, I'm hoping that Trevor Lawrence doesn't just get broken at some point. You know, like I think with Carson Wentz, it was all a mental thing. But Trevor Lawrence has all of the tools you need to make a great quarterback, as long as the mentals come through in the end, as long as it's not broken by a Doug Peterson or whatever. But yeah, I'm going to take the Jaguars to get right at home with this one.
All right, let me get that out of the way first. Jacksonville, I'm taking them to win. No, the thing I'm much more interested in talking about, the mock draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's looking like the Texans are in the running for the number 1 pick, and I think we're going to see yet another big restructuring in that franchise. It's hard as a quarterback to come in and be expected to kind of just take a really bad team and kind of elevate them by yourself as a rookie. Few players can do it, and Trevor Lawrence is kind of doing it at the moment for Jacksonville. For Houston, I don't know if Davis Mills is in a good position for this, but if you're sitting there at number 1, you're not passing on Bryce Young to like stick with Davis Mills. You're not taking whatever like an offensive tackle or a pass rusher. No, you're taking the star quarterback. So very possible. Kind of for the sake of Bryce Young, I don't want to see it. Because this team is in some deep trouble at the moment, and I think this rebuild's going to last longer than another year. So I do kind of want Bryce Young to go to a better team, a more sort of stable team. But that's, you know, at the end of the day, that's how the rules are. So it's possible. For his sake, I hope not, but who knows? Jacksonville to win this one, though, no doubt in my mind. That one actually, the spread is 7 points, and I think it should be quite a bit bigger. Bears at the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, who knows if this keeps up? And well, actually, I don't think that the Bears are absolutely horrible enough to. I mean, they're pulling out wins here and there, right? You know, you don't expect they're going to fall to the very bottom and end up with a Bryce Young to replace Justin Fields, which I think Justin Fields could develop at some point, but maybe they're in the running for that right now. It's either Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, or CJ Stroud at this point is going to go first overall, and most likely Bryce Young, like you said. But let's hope that Justin Fields gets a better chance than that. However, not much chance of winning this game, in my opinion. The Vikings have an explosive offense, and when Kirk Cousins is in sync with those wide receivers, they cannot be stopped. Justin Jefferson is a monster. When he's being fed, he is going to do a lot of damage, taking the Vikings to easily win this one at home.
Well, Justin Fields is hard to evaluate because he's not throwing the ball.
Not at all.
This Bears team, I know this franchise has existed for like 100 years, but they're playing as if they were like playing 100 years ago. The Chicago Bears 2022 are the first and only team in NFL history since the merger to have thrown less than 20 passes in the first 3 weeks of a season, which is unheard of, and our people are joking about it. Like the Bears would be, they'd be on top of this league if the forward pass was outlawed, because they're just running. That's all they do. They're just running the ball and trying to play defense. That's not a recipe for success in the modern NFL in the long run. Now,
no.
You can be run heavy. Like, you can favor the run. You have teams successfully do it. Philly does it. San Francisco does it. The Browns do it. That works. But you can't, like, not pass at all. That doesn't work. So, even though they are 2-2 and they were, like, on the spot there to be able to go as fast as 3-1 by beating the Giants, which they end up not managing to do, I think that's a pretty generous record so far, because They kind of won that opener against the 49ers in a monsoon when they kind of caught the 10 minutes of not rain to score 3 touchdowns, and after that nothing was possible anymore. So this team to me doesn't feel like a 2-2 potential 3-1 team. They feel worse, like you kind of said, and I agree with you. I'm gonna take the Vikings to win this one. All right, this one is interesting. The Lions at the Patriots.
Yeah. Man, when you said that, though, I pictured Justin Fields running out on the field with one of those old school sweaters and the leather helmet and everything.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That was hilarious.
No face mask.
Yeah, exactly. I want to see that happen at some point. Like, the way they're playing, like, you know, maybe. The Lions and the Patriots. The Lions have an explosive offense. Like, this team can get it done on offense. And with the receiving core and the running back room shrinking like it is, it's amazing that they're still putting up that many points. The unfortunate thing is that their defense is worse, like even worse than last season. They're just giving up everything. I mean, they made Geno look like a superstar. Really the number one on the week. No, actually, Goff was number one on the week, and Geno was second. That's amazing. On the other side, the Patriots. Are we getting Brian Hoyer back? Is it going to be Zappy? Is he going to be starting this game? I'm not sure right at the moment. But either way, these are backups and late round rookies here. The Lions have that explosive offense, and we know you can put up points on the Patriots, which wasn't you haven't been able to say that in years past, but you can right now. So I'll take the Lions to go to New England and win this one.
Wow. Okay, this one's tough to pick. I'll give you that, but then also you just close your eyes and you think of the names of these two teams, and it's the Lions and it's the Patriots, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna take New England. I think I'll take New England. Now, the important thing is I need word on Mac Jones. I need to know what's going on. Who's gonna be the quarterback for the Patriots? That's an important part, because Brian Hoyer came out against the Packers. He got dropped on his shoulder, was out in the first quarter, and then a guy I've never heard of by the name of Bailey Zappi took over at quarterback for the Patriots. And by the way, that's the team that nearly took the Packers to overtime. Even with that, with how devoid of talent this offense has become over the past 2 years or so, and with a third stringer rookie at quarterback who has never taken an NFL snap before, going toe to toe with Aaron Rodgers somehow, yeah, I'm gonna take the Patriots to win the game, because the Lions they're able to score points. They're mostly because they have to, because their defense can't stop anything. But they're not the type of team that's scrappy and is going to end up winning and closing a game. With that, I'm trusting the Patriots more. I think it's going to be a close one, potentially high scoring, both teams in their 20s or 30s. But I'm just trusting the Patriots to close it out, because that's what they do, and the Lions haven't shown that so much. So I'm giving the Patriots the benefit of the doubt. Niners at the Panthers.
This is tough right here, because we're seeing Geno versus... Wow, this is like a throwback to 2014. Geno versus Andy Dalton here. I don't think Jameis is going to be ready to come back. Not from what I've seen so far. So, man, Jets versus Cincinnati in 2014. This will be a duel for the ages right here. Both teams' offenses look really great right now, as we've stated for the Seahawks. Man, can Geno keep that up? That's what I'm wondering. Like, the Seahawks are not great. Their defense is horrible. And the Saints have a halfway decent defense, but they got scored on like crazy. I mean, it was the Vikings, so... It's tough. I think this is going to be a close game. I don't know that I want to trust Andy Dalton, but it is in New Orleans, so I will take the Saints to win this.
So just a correction, I set the wrong matchup. This is Seattle and New Orleans. I named the wrong one.
Oh, what did you say?
I said Niners Panthers, but that's the later time slot.
Oh, my bad.
So
I didn't
actually,
even. I just went straight to the next game. I didn't even.
You were right. You were correct in the right one. I just named the wrong team. So, see, this is you mentioned it, right, Andy Dalton, and Geno Smith is legitimately playing on a top 5 level right now, which is it makes this really really tough to pick this game. Because both these teams aren't exactly great in terms of roster quality overall, and they're clearly like entering sort of a rebuild consolidation kind of phase. But I'm gonna go with the better quarterback so far, and I know it's weird because it's Geno Smith and they're supposed to be on sort of the same level, but I'll take Seattle because he's been playing well. I don't know what else to say. He's played well, arguably. He had one legitimately bad game against San Francisco. The other ones, he's kept them in it. He's beaten teams that they shouldn't have been able to beat. I'm gonna take Seattle. I'll say they win it. They go to New Orleans and win it. Dolphins at the Jets.
Yeah, I really wish Tua was back here. I would love to see Zach versus Tua here. Well, if Tua is back though, I wouldn't have any doubt that the Dolphins are going to take this one with that explosive receiving core, and they can get it done on the ground because everyone is so afraid of those receivers out there. But the Jets, I mean, they looked good with Zach out there. Maybe we can chalk that up to it being the Steelers and how bad they are this season. So, even with Teddy Bridgewater, though, I think he's serviceable enough to beat the Jets, right? I'll take the Dolphins on the road.
I'll take the Dolphins as well. As for the quarterback situation, we're relatively confident that Tua's going to be out for this one. Mike McDaniel said even though they have a long week, they have 10 days ahead of them between that Thursday night game and this one. And we don't know 100% that he's definitively out, but he's de facto out. And I think even when it comes down to it, even if he gets like cleared on Thursday or Friday or something, for PR reasons alone, for the image, they're gonna hold him out of this game because they're not gonna repeat this again. I mean, he was like very clearly had a head injury against the Bills, got cleared in a questionable manner by a doctor who has already been fired since then, and they put him in. They let him play against the Bengals, and it's by the way, it's not. I've heard a lot of flack about this after the Bengals game. I just want to clarify one thing. This is not the Dolphins organization to blame for this at all. This is squarely on the medical side of things, because if you're the coach, if you're the Dolphins organization, you're hearing from the doctors who you have to trust because they're supposed to be the experts. He's clear. He's not concussed. He's good to go. You're hearing from your player. Of course, your player wants to play. Mm-hmm. But the way Shannon Sharp put it, sometimes player has to be protected from themselves. But how do you justify it to your player who's like, look, I'm not concussed, I'm good, the doctor cleared me, I can play, I want to play. It's hard to tell that player, no, we're not going to play you, we're going to keep you out, because this is millions of dollars on the line in every single game. So that's difficult to do. I think just to convey an image to the public, even if Tua were to be cleared before this game, I think they'll keep him out anyway, just to be sure. Because they're trying to save face there a little bit. This organization has had its share of scandals during the offseason the past half year. So Teddy Bridgewater, more than likely it will be. The only reason that this is close and the spread is only 3.5 points is, I think, because Zach Wilson looked really, really good against Pittsburgh and he won that game. Yes, Tua's important. Yes, Tua's vital to this offense. Teddy Bridgewater is not a bad quarterback though. He's fine as a gap filler, as a starter, if you need him to be. And I think they're still just a better team. They still have speed on the offense that is simply unmatched with Tyreek, with Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert. I'm taking the Dolphins. I still think even without Tua, they should be a much better team, and this should not be as big of a spread. I know they lost, the Jets won. This to me seems a bit like an overreaction. I need to see more from the Jets to justify this being only a field goal split in this game. So I'm taking the Dolphins to take it. Falcons at the Bucks.
Yeah, I've been wanting to talk about this. The Falcons are winning at least the past 2 weeks by these comeback wins like this. But if you did not watch that game and you just looked at this box score, Mariota went 7 for 19, 139 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. Tyler Algier had to come in because of Patterson being injured. 10 for 84, nothing great. Caleb Huntley went 10 for 56. And of course, Patterson did have a touchdown, and so did Caleb. But the receiving cores, Zacchaeus, 2 receptions for 55 yards. Kyle Pitts, 1 reception for 25 yards. This could be the best tight end in the entire league. He got 1 reception for 25 yards. Drake London, the best receiver on the team, unanimously, 2 for 17. 0 touchdowns through the air. How in the hell do you win that game? It makes no sense, but somehow they did. The Browns defense just folded at the end and let them win this game. But that does not give me confidence at all against the defense of the Bucs, which may be the best in the league. I want to pick the Falcons. I want them to win. But it's the Bucs and it's Tom Brady, right? Like, as bad as their offense has been this week, this defense is going to win this game. So I'm picking the Bucs at home.
I give you one quick correction because I'm gonna insist on taking the small victories. Statistically speaking, because the Bucs just got lit up so bad by the Kansas City Chiefs, the Niners are currently the best defense in the league, just purely on stats. I'm just gonna take the 5 minutes in the sun. But yeah, you're right. The Buccaneers defense is still really, really strong. You've outlined pretty well exactly what's wrong with the Falcons offense, and even though they're able to win games like this one, the scrappy kind of games, that's not a formula for consistency when all of your playmakers just basically don't have the ball in their hands. And going to be a very different story facing the Browns without Myles Garrett compared to facing the Bucs, who are possibly the best defense in the league. I think this is, to me, a pretty easy pick. I'm taking Tampa Bay because a lot of things have to happen for the Falcons to score consistently on this defense. I'm not believing it. There's going to be a low scoring game, by the way. This is going to be similar to the Bucs Saints that we saw a week ago. But Tampa Bay came out on top of that one because all they really need at some point is going to be 1 touchdown, and they're confident that they're not going to break on defense to give one up as well. So Tampa Bay to win at home. Titans at the Washingtons.
Man, Commanders are disappointing, aren't they? This may be Wentz's last shot, and unless he ends up like a McCown or Fitzpatrick or something, and just traveling from team to team each season as a backup and maybe a starter when he gets the chance. But they're really bad. The Titans look like they're pulling it together. They look bad in the first couple of weeks, but big win over the Colts for them on the road, a divisional win, so they should have some momentum here. This is all behind Derrick Henry. He's looking like the beast that he is after a couple of down games, but looks like he's back on track, and he should lead this team right past the Commanders here. Titans on the road.
Agree. Titans are favored by only a field goal. This to me is, once again, exploitable to say the least in terms of the betting situation, so I'm maybe looking that way as well. Yeah, Tennessee, like they've started the season badly. They lost to the Giants at home to open up. They haven't played well to start. They found their rhythm, and for the Commanders, it's kind of been the opposite. They started off pretty well. I had Carson Wentz in my MVP list for the first 2 weeks because they were like legitimately putting up points. Now, not so much anymore. Much less confident in them, and I think, Tennessee, doesn't matter home or not, Tennessee should win this, and I'm taking them. Now we come to the Niners and Panthers.
Yeah. I guess Shanahan just owns McVay at this point, right? As bad as the 49ers were 2 weeks ago, for them to come out and just dominate the Super Bowl champions in that fashion with Garoppolo, that I can't believe anything other than Shanahan just has McVay's number. Now, McVay can win and win a lot. He just can't seem to be Shanahan for some reason. So you can feel good about that. The Panthers are bad. I don't think they're going to put it together this season. I don't think Baker is the savior of this team. Their receiving core is useless because Baker wants to play this hero ball out there. He wants to run around and make plays like Josh Allen when he just doesn't have the Josh Allen tools to do that. He's smaller, he's not as fast, and he doesn't have the arm to do it. And he can't throw on the run like Allen does. He's not Josh Allen, but that's what he wants to be, and he's trying to prove it, and I think his eyes are bigger than his bite sometimes. I'll take the 49ers on the road to beat the Panthers.
So even more fun fact than the coaches battle, I like to point out that since Jimmy Garoppolo has arrived in San Francisco, and of course he missed some games with injury, he's played of course they play the Rams twice a year, so he's played them 7 times now in the regular season, 7-0 against the Rams.
Wow.
Which is hard to believe, because arguably during that whole time frame, both teams were equally very, very strong on average, but somehow he just gets it done. Not going to complain about it. In this one as well, I'll take the Niners to win. Panthers have not been looking very good. You mentioned Baker. What did you expect? I'm expecting at some point to see like a quarterback carousel to happen. I'm expecting to see Darnold at some point, and then Baker again, and the Panthers going not a whole lot of anywhere. Christian McCaffrey seems to be doing good. When he gets the ball in his hand, he still has the ability to make explosive plays, but this is a very strong defense in San Francisco. I would not be surprised if they once again dominated defensively, specifically against an offense that hasn't shown to be too much of a threat. So I'll take the Niners to win. Eagles at the Cardinals.
The undefeated Eagles at the Cardinals. I didn't believe in the Cardinals, but you did for some weird reason, which I would have never expected, and you pulled it out against the Panthers. But I guess that really shows how bad the Panthers are, rather than the Cardinals just being better. The Cardinals are still bad, in my opinion. They can win a game here and there, that's obvious, but overall they're bad, and overall the Eagles are just good. The Eagles are on fire. Now you can't say for 3 quarters there it looked really rough for the Eagles, but that was against a very explosive Jaguars. But like I said, when it came down to it, whether or not Hurts was able to put the team on his back and actually eke out a win, great running game, like you said. Miles Sanders, I want to pat myself on the back for always believing in Miles Sanders, even though everybody told me he was washed and never had it in the first place and whatever they said. Miles Sanders is still a superstar, and I love seeing those Penn State quarterbacks, Miles and Saquon, out there proving it this year, because I always believed in them. But that's enough of patting myself on the back. The Eagles are going to win this one on the road.
I do agree. They're running the ball at will up and down the block, and the Cardinals still missing DeAndre Hopkins, still missing the offensive explosiveness that they had with the deep passing game that made them dangerous last year. Still very one-dimensional team, and you have to stop the Eagles on the ground. I don't think they're going to do it, plain and simple. So Philadelphia wins, not much to say about it. They did beat the Panthers, which I picked, but they didn't do it in a very convincing fashion. It didn't look like world beaters at all, and it was quote-unquote only the Panthers. The Eagles team's undefeated, so there's no point in picking against them. Cowboys at the Rams.
Tell me this, is my boy Cooper Rush undefeated?
Man. See, I sat here a few weeks ago and said that, like, hell, I would have to freeze over for Dak to not come back instantly when he's healthy, and for them to keep Cooper Rush in somehow. It's getting close to where this is not a joke like anymore.
I'm telling you, I bet their fans are like, Dak, just take your time, man. That's a bad injury. You don't no need to rush back, you know. Take
an extra week.
Yeah. I don't know, man. If Cooper keeps this up, he might earn a spot. Even if Dak comes back later, hopefully, and the fans are probably hoping later. They want to wait until they see a loss at least. But maybe Cooper can earn a spot for the Commanders next season, or the Colts, or whoever is going to need one. But yeah, this is tough. The Rams went down in horrible fashion on Monday night. But the Rams, like I said, Sean McVay can win, and he can win quite often as long as he's not playing the 49ers. Or the Bills, obviously. Number one team. I want to say that the momentum keeps up, though. I want to say that the Rams are still under their Super Bowl hangover, and that the Cowboys can win this one in LA. It's going to be tough, but this is kind of my Steelers versus Bills for you earlier. I'm going to take the Cowboys to beat the Rams here.
Not nearly as big of an upset pick as the Steelers, but I'll give it to you anyway. You did it. And I'm gonna take you up on it, and I'm gonna take the Rams, because usually the Rams are worse against the Niners for some reason than what they actually are. So what we saw on Monday night, as rough as it looked, and Matthew Stafford was ready to throw 4 interceptions in that game, and 3 of them were dropped, by the way. So it could have been a whole lot rougher. I think the Rams are still a better team than the Cowboys. That being said, if Cooper Rush wins this, he starts and he wins the game, and Dallas keeps on trucking like this, like, we're getting into the territory where it's no longer a complete joke with him. Like, why take him out? You know, Dak starts the season, the Cowboys look bad, they lose. Cooper Rush comes in, he wins the game, he wins the game, he wins the game. How are you going to argue against that? At some point, right? It could legitimately be a debate breaking out of Dallas, which I never thought in a million years would happen. But there could be a legitimate debate on the horizon, especially, and this is always something of note, especially with Dak Prescott having a tendency to get hurt a lot nowadays.
Yeah.
Like, he's if you're committing to him, you're expecting him to miss like a quarter of a season pretty much every year, or on average. So that is something that factors into the whole thing. I'm going to say the Rams bounce back. They're better than what we've seen on Monday night, and I think they're better than the Cowboys, and they win this one at home. Bengals at the Ravens.
I know that's a long shot. Now, I'm sure the betting odds have the Rams by 6 or something, but
4 points.
4? Okay, a little closer
Only
than
4
I expected.
points.
Yeah. On the other hand, the Bengals look like they're trying to pull it together over here. The Ravens had a tough break right there because it was the Bills. But, man, a lot of these games were rainy also. Not a lot of passing yards for Lamar because of the rain, obviously, but he was able to take off and run when he needed to, and that's what he does best. Unfortunately for the Ravens, Josh Allen can also do those types of things, and maybe even better at passing. So that was a great game. Weather being what it was still a wonderful game. The Bengals, pulled the upset over the Dolphins, but that was a Tua situation rather than the Bengals just really being that good on defense. I think I'm gonna pick the Ravens to get it going back. Get it going in this game. I don't think the Bengals could keep this up. I think that was all Tua going out, and the Ravens should win this one.
See, the Bengals were winning that game when Tua went out. So I have a hard time just completely writing it off to that. But I will say Baltimore's looked very... Now, both of these teams are 2-2, but Baltimore's looked very impressive. I'm going to agree with you. I'll take the Ravens, and I'm giving them the 3 points for being at home. And by the way, Vegas agrees with me here. The Ravens are 3-point favorites in this game. So this is effectively a pick 'em on neutral ground. I can see why you would like the Ravens even in sort of a pick'em situation, because they seem to be more productive on offense, or more consistently productive on offense with Lamar Jackson, and the Bengals seem to not yet found the rhythm that took them to the Super Bowl last year, even though they're kind of getting back into it and we know the ability is there. I'm giving the 3 points to Baltimore, and I'm going to agree with you on this one, taking the Ravens. But potentially this is a really, really high quality game. If the Bengals show up, the good Bengals show up, the Bengals of the last 2 weeks rather than the first 2 weeks, this is a very, very good late night primetime game. So I'm glad they scheduled it that way, and I'm glad the Bengals have stayed in the fight, winning their past 2 games. And then Monday night, we have the Raiders and the Chiefs.
I told you the Raiders were going to have to start getting some wins in if they were going to make it to 500 this year. So they pulled it out. I mean, it was over the Broncos, which is nothing impressive at this point with Russell, who was dang near immobile, but he did have 29 yards in that game. So if you have an immobile quarterback that you want to see move around a little bit, put him up against the Raiders. I think we can do that here. Actually, Mahomes doesn't need to move around. He could just chuck the ball at any time and let his receivers go get it. Maybe not as much speed as he used to have, but he still has some quick receivers out there. He's got a lot of elite options, even at running back, as we've seen. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has gotten going the likes of we haven't seen since he got to the NFL, because he is a great pass-catching back. He's not great at the traditional running back sense, north-south running, but he is a great receiver out of the running back position. The Chiefs should have no problem disposing the Raiders at home here.
I do agree with that. Kansas City just loaded up on the best defense in the league, arguably, with Tampa Bay. Now, they did also give up some points, but that's kind of always been them. They're comfortable in shootouts, and they're comfortable in their offense being high-powered throughout the whole game. The Raiders might as well be 0-4. They should be better than what their record says, but this is the Chiefs. The Chiefs are definitely probably still the best team in this division, even though, the Chargers and Broncos are kind of underperforming. The Raiders definitely underperforming. Gotta give it to Kansas City. As long as Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback, you're only going to be this bad. It's never gonna get worse than I want to say 20 points, 21 points a game. You just expect it at this point if you have Mahomes, if you have this kind of offense, even without Sammy Watkins being out. And not Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill being gone. Sammy Watkins also, but Tyreek Hill was the focal point of the offense in the receiving game for the most part. Yeah, Kansas City, absolutely. I will agree with you on that one as well. Mm-hmm. So how many did we disagree this week? It was not that many this week, was it?
No, it wasn't many last week, actually. Wait, I missed one. Did you pick the Seahawks or the Saints?
I picked Seattle.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I went with Geno Smith.
Yeah, Cowboys and Rams. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
Seahawks and Saints. That's 2, and Steelers and Bills. So, Lions and Patriots. We got 4.
About to say you picked the Lions, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one more disagreement than last week, at least. Fair enough.
Yes, exactly.
Let us know your picks in the comments as well. Go vote for your MVP. Before we close it out, any news in fantasy land? What's coming up this week?
Yeah, definitely. We are a quarter of a way into the season now, which is kind of sad. I hate looking back and going, wow, that much of the season is already over. But it is time that we have a big enough sample size in the world of fantasy to figure out who is elite and who is not, who you can keep and who you can drop, and which unlikely surprise productive players that we can play every single week in our starting lineup. So we'll talk about that this week.
All right. We'll be sure to keep up on that one. If you're a fantasy player, you definitely should watch it. Professional advice for free, so make sure to subscribe to this channel, and that fantasy video is coming up just after this show. In fact, there's a pretty good chance if you're watching this before Thursday night kickoff, the fantasy video might already be out. So go check that out on the channel. Once again, a reminder, there's a poll on the community page where you can pick your current MVP. And if you're going to pick an exotic name, leave me a comment and tell me why. That being said, do you have anything to add to these games, Smokey?
I think that's it for this week.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And we're going to see you in the next one.
Deuces.
Check the scoreboard. Ha. Check.